Yes, shalom, shalom, shalom. So we have this template up right now, you know, and the topic, you know, on I and I's thought as discussion, I was thinking, the whole peace in the Middle East. You know what I mean? How was the resolution for that peace in the Middle East? And me myself being a black man, an Afro American, as I would describe it, more describingly Afro American, and there's a reason I say that, the roots of that context. So a black Afro American, so I can fit in the category of one who is a descendant of slaves, or I can fit as a foundational black man, if you will. Either one, I can fit into both categories. So now, when we come to thinking about peace in the Middle East and how that situation can be resolved peacefully, there was one thing, that has to be done in order for that situation to truly be resolved, and it is abiding in the word of His Imperial Majesty Qedamawi Haile Selassie. Though in order for governments to heed to the word of His Imperial Majesty, you would first have to let go of your racism. You have to get rid of your racist attitude. You can't be racist to the fact of the roots of the truth, dealing with Israel as originally black people, and what this does as far as the progression of helping other people in the world also. And that's why we had this this beginning template right here. We thought this was a very good beginning template, and it's there for a reason, because we want our our children, our mothers, our sisters, our brothers, our family, and our people to understand the importance of them being the people in this book. You know what I mean? Understanding the importance of them being the people in this Torah, in this spiritual history of us being those true Israelites, or those true Jews, and being able to attain the capability to be able to overcome our obstacles at any time that we are in that obstacle. But the key to this is our connection with the Almighty. It gives us that intelligent frame of mind. It gives us the construct and the pattern that we need. So the reason we said racism, we want to stay on the topic. The resolution of peace in the Middle East. First of all, one should, wherever you at, encourage your black brothers and sisters to work together as one people, coming to that effort of shalom, and attaining the economic wealth and all those other things that is needed to help and to run a nation, or for people to thrive and live happy, in happiness and joy, and there be shalom in this earth. Though the racism must be done away with first. Now, His Imperial Majesty, he does give a solution to, one's having peace in the Middle East. Though the question is, will what they call the Jewish state of Israel, right? What they call the white Jewish state of Israel. We're gonna say the white Jewish state, because it has not been, as we say, in proper authority, handed over to the right political force that's supposed to move it in its righteous manner that it should be moved in. And we learn a lot from His Imperial Majesty Qedamawi Haile Selassie, in his words. The word of the Almighty is the law. So now when we seek here, what we do, these are a couple of notes from the book. Now, if I think one should get the whole book if you want to check out the whole book. From our research of Alliance and Alienation by Haggai Ehrlich. That's the book that I'm speaking about, to be specific. Alliance and Alienation by Haggai Ehrlich. Now, our perspective as far as what we have heard and what we've seen so far is that the truth is that, and just to make a long story short, that either they understand the truth of His Imperial Majesty, the importance of the power of His Imperial Majesty, Qedamawi Haile Selassie, and they heed to His word, or they take it lightly, one or the other. And it would be, how can we say, it would be unprofitable for one to take it lightly. Let me put it that way. Okay, so now as we're going to read here, this is just a couple of notes because we're not, we won't get into the entire book. One should go and, get a copy of it for themselves, if you will. We said the name of the book, Alliance and Alienation, okay, by Haggai Ehrlich. So this was His Majesty's advice, and we'll go over first these words. We'll go over first the words that you see here clearly on the screen, and then the ones that are highlighted. Okay, so let us go over, because we have to understand the words of His Imperial Majesty that will manifest a good destination for our people in this coming future, as that oncoming generation, because it's His Imperial Majesty that told us that He will be replaced by the oncoming generation. And those of us who are Amein, that He's the Almighty, He's already set this template. There's so many great and wonderful things that His Imperial Majesty has done. No man has exceeded the greatness. Okay, no man has exceeded the accomplishments of His Imperial Majesty. And I only speak this from reading, you know what I mean, and reading about this man, and reading other materials, that other brothers and sisters have contributed to the conscious history of black people around the world, black and brown people, if you will. You know what I mean? Coming from that truthful perspective. So here we're going to read here, and let us start on the first paragraph here. Okay, it says, so throughout those years, the emperor's position remained clear. The Arabs must recognize and make shalom, make peace, right? Israel must withdraw from all the territories occupied in June 1967. Now that's highlighted, and we give us, give a thanks to the brethren, Wyndham Ayason, for this highlighted part, because the highlighted part is very important to understand. So if they heed to the word of His Imperial Majesty, and they listen to Qedamawi Haile Selassie, Rastafari, then they would heed to these words. Okay, so it says Israel must withdraw from all the territories occupied in June 1967. Right, now going on, already during the battles of the 1967 war, His Imperial Majesty Qedamawi Haile Selassie told Ambassador Ben David that, right, he understands us if after all those hostilities we shall insist on solid securities before we withdraw. Now let me repeat that, okay, because that's to be understood. Solid securities. So we have to understand there the mission to eliminate terrorist or terroristic threats towards Israel, you know what I mean, as a people, you know what I mean, because we see a lot of hate, and one should be able to live. Now there's a way to live side by side with other brothers of other religions. That's we're not saying that brothers couldn't practice their religion, but now if one's religion is morally harmful to another human being, then of course not. Of course you should not be able to or permitted to practice that. That is breaking universal law. Okay, and justice has to be sought out for that. You understand? This is the important. It's not about revenge or harming innocent people, because that is not, that should not be done either. You know what I mean? So the understanding of not harming the innocent people, but getting rid of the threat against humanity, the wickedness or the evil forces that is harming humanity, is to get rid of that. Whatever it calls itself a religion, it's not really a religion in that sense, but I don't even want to get into that. We're not going to go there. Let us keep reading on. But this is to understand the words of His Imperial Majesty. So He understands us if after all those hostilities, we shall insist on solid securities before we withdraw. Solid securities before we withdraw. Right? A few days later, he added in a conversion, and this is after the highlighted we're reading here, with PM Levy, ESCO's special envoy, that Israel is a fact, and Ethiopia. Pay attention. Pay attention. The words of His Imperial Majesty. Right? So, in a conversion with PM Levy, ESCO's special envoy, that Israel is a fact and Ethiopia would stand at the UN against any resolution ignoring that. So His Majesty was with, having that security for such hostilities, though also in, in a balanced righteousness in life, restoring the proper boundaries, as His Imperial Majesty said. And this is the word of Jah Rastafari straight up. So whether ones are Amein on his word or not, this word is still the law. It doesn't matter what, if whether you believe it or not, you can test it, as the world has tested the word of His Majesty and has reaped the repercussions of that. Just like at the Geneva Convention, right? His Majesty said, it is us today, it will be you tomorrow. His Majesty spoke that prophecy, and those things did take place. So let us not pretend as though the word of the law or the word of Hashem will not come true. Okay. So a few days later, he added in a conversion with PM Levy, ESCO's special envoy, that Israel is a fact and Ethiopia would stand at the UN against any resolutions ignoring that. Foreign Minister Qedamawi declared at a news conference held in Addis Ababa on July 10th, 1967, that Israel is a fact and a member of the UN. Right? So this is what the Foreign Minister Qedamawi declared at a news conference held in Addis Ababa on July 10th, 1967, that Israel is a fact and a member of the UN. We supported its establishment in that he was somewhat imprecise. And we have, that's what it says in the bars there, right? So they said that, and that he was somewhat imprecise. And we have normal diplomatic relations with her. We have normal diplomatic relations with her. Some of these words, you have to understand that what ones are held to in the Torah. Because remember, one say they are Israel, and Amos 9:7 says, aren't you as the children of the Ethiopians to me, O Israel? You cannot avoid that. You can say what you think, you could chop it up, you can make it whatever you want to make it, but the facts are still the facts. Okay, so let us read on. Now over here, there's another note written, or there's another note that is highlighted more at the bottom of this paragraph. So we'll read on here. It says, Ethiopia has close ties with all sides in the Middle East. Right? So now let us focus on the promised land, the boundaries of the promised land, right? And all of Saudi Arabia, and over there, and what is in the boundaries of the promised land, all the way down to Ethiopia, right? All the way down to the Nile, and all the way down to Lake Victoria, right? All the boundaries of the promised land in the full circle, going past the two rivers, right? The two rivers, you know, and our idea of rivers in science from the Almighty's perspective at that time, when he analyzes that measurement in a circumference, right? In a circle circumference. You should know what I'm talking about. We're talking about the promised land, because I'm not going to go to the actual picture right now. But the idea is there, right? So you know those promised land boundaries. So Ethiopia has close ties with all sides in the Middle East, right? All sides in the Middle East. We are well aware of the suffering of those who live there. The Arabs, pay attention, right? As well as, now you got to remember that Ishmael, you know, those black connections. Ishmael is the father of the 12 Arab nations, the black Arabs. You know what I mean? Like the Somalians, for example. Okay? The original black Arabs. So once we get rid of our racist barriers, we're able to admit these things, and then we're also able to understand the word of the law, or the word of the Almighty, and what he is saying. It's not saying that we should go praising a people because they are of a certain color, but it's the fact to recognize the truth of the real history of a people from the perspective of the Almighty, and not something that somebody lied to us about or they made up. Okay, so we are well aware of the suffering of those who live there, the Arabs, as well as the suffering of those who were expelled, the Jews who were expelled. Okay, so now we're here, and we're entering into how we're understanding there's a captivity of Israel. Israel was scattered throughout the whole world, right? The black Israel was enslaved and scattered throughout the whole world, and this has to be made known. Remember that the Ottoman Turks took over Jerusalem, right, in 1187 AD. The Romans, right, now before this, previously the Romans had took it over in 70 AD, and they even said the Jews were the Ethiopians, meaning black people in that sense. Black people. So when they said Ethiopian, they meant black people. Okay, and so this is a fact. All right. So now we know right here where it says, as well as of the suffering of those who were expelled. That's very deep. When we say the expelling of the Jews, the black Jews, have more historical account, respectively, of the people who were enslaved and scattered throughout the whole world than any other people. Now, it's not to say that other people don't have history of which maybe their land was ran down on by another tribe or another nation, or that, you know, but to know the history of the world and the borders that men and people are supposed to have, coming from the perspective of the Almighty, is what is important. That's the only way that we can make shalom, when we know our proper borders. Then we know our proper borders, then we know where we can live at and live in shalom, and then rid the land of any evil or wicked elements that are polluting it. Okay? So, it says, of those who were expelled, the Jews, were scattered all over the world. So, it's saying that here. But kept yearning to return. We have here a legitimate struggle between two nationalist movements. Right? So, notice, listen to the word sound. Okay? Listen to the word sound of His Imperial Majesty, Qedamawi, Haile, Selassie, Rastafari. So he's telling you, we have here a legitimate struggle between two nationalist movements. The main goal should be to make shalom between Arab nationalism, okay, and Jewish nationalism, on the basis of mutual recognition of the rights of all. Okay, see? So His Majesty was not, you know, and notice His Majesty's not sitting up here. He's not sitting up here saying, oh, you know, this one's this color, this one, that, when he's talking about the Jewish people, but he uses the reference to their name as them, as Jewish people, with this type of respect for us who see His Imperial Majesty as Qedamawi Haile Selassie, that we make shalom with that. You know what I mean? And we cool with that. We have no reason to be racial or anything. But that we understand the root of the cause of the whole situation. What is the root? We understand who the roots are, or what the root race is. You understand? So from there, we're able to govern or make the, you know, the potential leadership decisions that need to be made for the people. Right? So Jewish nationalism, right? So it says peace between Arab nationalism and Jewish nationalism on the basis of mutual recognition of the rights of all. See? Shalom, shalom. Mutual recognition of the rights of all, right? Such shalom is achievable. So His Majesty is telling you that such peace is achievable. Such peace is achievable. Now here, to highlight it, you know, and give credit to credit is due to the Wyndham for the highlighting over here. It must be based on Israel's withdrawal from all that she occupied in the last war. But it would be equally fair that this has to be carried out in an atmosphere in which all sides are committed to non-violence. Okay? And so that's why you see a lot of brothers and sisters, the word in Hebrew that brothers and sisters have found, at least, you know, from what we are told, Hamas, and we have brothers and sisters that said that this word means violence in the Hebrew. Okay? So it's now we're not even talking about a people, we're talking about actions, right? Actions that have to be condemned. Violent or wicked actions towards another people for an evil purpose that have to be condemned. Because every man is worthy of a trial. And this is why you shouldn't have acts out of random violence. Now, some actions that people may feel they have to take because they have no choice as a form of either self-defense or something that has not had real justice, and they feel like they had to do it that way. That's different, you know. But we're not gonna go there at this moment. But that's a whole nother story. But speaking of this, you know, the point is that peace can be achieved. Shalom can be achieved without all of this foolishness and all of this violence. So let us continue. It is also imperative to emphasize that Jerusalem has to remain international. Okay? So these are the words of His Imperial Majesty. It is also imperative to emphasize that Jerusalem has to remain international. It is the option of my government that no practical solution to the Middle East problem is possible without acceptance of the right of Israel to exist according to the UN Charter of at that time period. Okay, so according to the UN Charter of at that time period, as far as those people who wanted to live or dwell in that land, His Majesty basically, this word gave the law for them to be able to dwell in that area, especially if those people had, you know, had already begun to do something. You know what I mean? So it's something they had already begun to do. So it's the mercy of the Almighty to allow them to settle there in those areas, you know, and with the respective borders, He's saying. So these are the things that must be done to achieve that type of peace in the Middle East. So speaking on the words of His Imperial Majesty, there's more that we want to go into about that. You know, because that was really important to us. Give us for a moment. We had to, let's see. Yeah, give us a moment. We need to get something for about a second. So yes, because, you know, the word of His Majesty, it gives us the blueprint on how to solve all these problems in the Middle East. So, and not just from not just from this word of His Imperial Majesty here, over here in these notes in this book written by Haggai Ehrlich of Alliance and Alienation, though also in some other areas that we want to go into and read concerning what His Majesty says concerning the Middle East. Okay, so it is the opinion of my government that no practical solution to the Middle East problem is possible without acceptance of the right of Israel to exist according to the UN Charter. Also, the Palestinians have to be compensated on their lost property, as well as enjoy the right to return to their homes if they chose to. So, and see, this is where we see the mercy of the Almighty. You know, Rastafari being loving to all human beings and understanding what these people have went through. You know what I mean? And the returning of their property and the things that belong to them. You know, it's the same thing with the Jews who were expelled. It's the very same thing. You know, the returning of property and the reinstating of borders as they properly should be put in the first place. The way His Majesty, the way the Almighty had established borders in the first place. You know, because it was Canaan who had encroached on the different borders, and then other ones who had mixed later. You know, we don't want to get into the whole bloodline thing right now. Though let's get the basic idea of genuine morality. Okay, so let us read that again. So also the Palestinians have to be compensated. So notice here that they must be compensated on their lost property, as well as enjoy the right to return to their homes if they chose to. Okay, so yeah, again, you know, let us say it again. You know what I mean? This would bring peace to the Middle East. This is one solution that becomes part of what we need to solve the problem over there in the Middle East. Okay, so following the word of His Imperial Majesty, all right, as he says, it is also imperative. Where do we want to see that at? Where it says shalom, right? Shalom is achievable. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Where it says peace, right? Where it says peace is achievable. Peace is achievable. Now, also, we want to look at some areas also of the speeches by His Imperial Majesty and some of his speeches that he made. And we see his word there was very significant and very important. And we found the Middle East there about 28 times. Okay, so we want to read into each place that we saw that at, you know, because we thought that was important also to this same structure, the way that this was going to, you know, this presentation was going to work and what we were going to say. Now, this other place in the speeches. So now we got going because I wanted to paint a vision in your mind. So excuse me, I know I've probably been, you know, kind of going back and forth, but there's a certain way that I needed this to be envisioned within one's mind when they see this presentation. You know, so I'm hoping I did it well, because I might do it again or something like that. I might be like, nah, I ain't like that, and do it over, because it be like that. You know what I mean? So hopefully we don't have to do this one over. Now, here, okay, as we said, we will paint a certain vision within the mind of the presentation. Now, at the beginning of this presentation, you notice that we showed you the word of His Imperial Majesty concerning the resolution for peace in the Middle East. We said that this be a good video to bring forth a resolution for peace in the Middle East. So we're seeing what has been said. Now, if you agree with that or you don't agree, that's on you. Again, you know, as we said, it would be unprofitable for one. Okay. So now, well, we see Middle East here in His Imperial Majesty's speeches. The area now, the title here is higher education. It's agricultural college graduation. And now where we see the word at, and basically just describing the title of the paragraph or the area that's closest to where the word is at. So where we saw, this is here where we see Middle East first, we see it is the agricultural college graduation. Okay. And so we're going to read from here so we can get an understanding of now some of the perspective of the vision of His Imperial Majesty concerning the Middle East. So soak up these gems here. Okay. So this is agricultural college graduation. From the beginnings of recorded history right up to the Middle Ages, and even as the late as the beginning of the industrial age in which we live, agriculture has always constituted the fundamental source of wealth for the human race. Okay, so this is His Majesty's, this is the beginning, the introduction of this. It gives us great pleasure to be present here to inaugurate the College of Agriculture and Mechanical Arts, an occasion which marks a great and far-reaching advance in our program for the promotion of agricultural education. This institution will serve as a source of inspiration in carrying out the agricultural program which we have laid down for the future. So listen to the way His Majesty is speaking about agriculture. We know that agriculture is a form of store. We always hear brothers and sisters speaking about growing things, and us as black people, we should come together and have a grow everything campaign. Because once you grow all the products that you need, you are able to, get these products off into store. But growing many things and on vast levels, right? Just the way we see other nations and other communities doing these things. Right, so let's go here. In establishing the college for the development of the natural wealth of our country, agriculture, and animal husbandry on modern and scientific lines, our main purpose has not been merely to develop and utilize these basic resources to supply the daily needs of our people, but in addition, listen, to produce a surplus to be shared with other countries of the world. Okay, so this is about us working together as nations together, and that's why it is important for your black brothers and sisters to work together to build this wealth, that other nations will be able, they will see that light, right? They will see that light, and they will work together and build that wealth together with their people, and perform on the basis with the Almighty the way that the people should morally behave under their true God, a good God, the one true good God, Jah, Rastafari, So where we at? We don't want to lose our. So our main purpose has not been merely to develop and utilize these basic resources to supply the daily needs of our people, but in addition to produce a surplus to be shared with other countries of the world. Ethiopia, to some degree, has done this in the past. For example, when the world was sorely distressed by lack of food immediately after the Second World War, our country, although she herself had for 5 long years been struggling to recover from the terrible damage inflicted on her during the war, was yet able to perform a significant service in supplying foodstuffs to the countries of the Middle East. So this is the first place where we see the Middle East is mentioned here in the speeches here. And notice how it mentions the Middle East. It mentions the Middle East as aiding a people from a war-torn situation with food and supply. You know what I mean? This is very important. So this is showing love and care for one's neighbor, right? And it didn't mention what religion they were or anything like that. But this is the These are the words of His Imperial Majesty. This is the blueprint. This is the vision of His Majesty. That Ethiopia was like that Joseph. You know what I mean? Ethiopia was a powerhouse, and since they were a powerhouse growing and managing their own resources, this is why it's important for the port to be open to the Red Sea. This is for all peoples of the world. So black people come together, and this is the importance of this. And when we're looking at this, dealing with Ethiopia, if black people come together and they build their wealth and they build their economy, right, and they build a good structure, so will the rest of the world replenish and be wealthy and build on a healthy and a good structure also. You know, we'll all aid each other together, you see. But this is speaking of coming to the aid of another country. So we hear this in this speech, His Imperial Majesty is breaking that down for us. This having this structure and this discipline and this pattern of agriculture at home, that we be able to also supply another country when they were in need of that aid. You know what I mean? Showing the love and care, the moral care of human beings to other human beings. So when those human beings are also in that situation, they will also show that love and care. Okay, so let us go over here. Let us finish up here. So this was the first place the Middle East was written. We always go back kind of a few sentences just to get the, you know, make sure the word is seen. You know, like brothers when they like the battle rappers, you know, they kind of go back over their verses. You know what I mean? You kind of you spit back a little bit, go back over that verse. So, was yet able to perform a significant service in supplying foodstuffs to the countries of the Middle East. And we have been pleased to observe how, since then, our people have increasingly devoted themselves to improving the agriculture of our country. Okay, so let us read on here. A country and a people that become self-sufficient, we're just speaking about that, by the development of agriculture can look forward with confidence to the future. Again, this is the words of His Imperial Majesty. A country and a people that become self-sufficient by the development of agriculture can look forward with confidence to the future. Okay, so we don't want to read on too far. Let us go to the next one. Okay, so number 2, and we see now here Middle East again. So we're in the second part where we find Middle East. We're going to continue on the count because I'm not sure if we'll make the whole time on the video, because I'm not sure how much time we actually have on the video. We just know we recording, so we going. Okay, so we're in the second one. This is titled, this one is Special Education. Okay, and down here it says founded on the eve of the Italo-Ethiopian War. So this title. Okay, so Special Education. Let's see. Okay, that must be from the last paragraph, so we're not going to read that part. We'll start here. Thus, by founding of the Military Training Center. So dealing with war. Thus, by founding of that Military Training Center on the eve of the most momentous struggle in her history, Ethiopia demonstrated to the world her unshakable confidence in victory through the courage and military virtues of her people. This resolve has never vacillated under our reign. While engaging military experts from abroad, while purchasing arms within the limits of her capacity, Ethiopia has never compromised her independence, however pressing the exigencies, right? So however pressing the exigencies of the hour. Okay, so this was based on the Military Training Center. Okay, and Ethiopia's demonstrating that courage. You know what I mean? That balance and that courage. So us as a people, that's metaphoric for us to have that kind of courage as a military stronghold. You know, but if we don't know our nation, how can we have that courage as that stronghold of people all around where we're at? You know, we recall with gratitude the services of the Swedish military officers who made the initial expertly successful contributions toward the functioning of the military training center, and whose successors are today continuing their collaboration in the building of a strong modern national army. You know, so we always hear that, you know, that nonsense about some about funds and the Swedish bank and stuff like that, but this is the true story right here. So His Majesty is showing us at this time, giving credit to the Swedish people, how they came to, you know what I mean, based on the word of His Imperial Majesty. You know what I mean? So in their efforts, helping to train these soldiers, right? And their efforts in this military training effort. Why is this military training effort here? This military training effort here is to help good overcome evil. All right? So they had to have that balanced military structure. So again, we recall with gratitude the services of the Swedish military officers who made the initial expertly successful contribution towards the functioning of the military training center, and whose successors are today continuing their collaboration in the building of a strong and modern national army. Belgian military tradition and science have also made their valued contribution towards the resilient imperial bodyguard. This is very important for the other nations around us. You know what I mean? That they would help Aina. They're supposed to help Jah people. You know what I mean? So this is what Jah mean when he says the nations are my people. This is an example of that. Of that coming to that contribution is an example of the nations being Jah people. In addition to the invaluable assistance of the British during the liberation of Ethiopia, at a time when Ethiopia lay vulnerable and exhausted from the struggle of national liberation, right? So this is very important. This is what we have to understand, right? At what time any nation becomes exhausted from the struggle of national liberation, that means or being down pressed by another or oppressed by another. You know, this is very important because this same thing happened to Europe. This is what His Majesty was talking about. So it's not nothing necessarily to say, you know, someone will point the finger, aha, you know, whatever, yeah, you know, and then it turns on you and it happens to you. You see what I'm saying? So it's not like a matter of you pointing the finger, because at any time it could be you, you know. That was the point when His Majesty said that it's us today, but it'll be you. It will be you tomorrow. This is very important here. Okay, this is very important here. That's why this aid here was important. Us helping. If you're good, you know that evil, it could come on you. So if you allow evil to be done to another or to others, that same evil can also come on you too, while you're careless about it or you don't care. Right. So the British military mission made a powerful, never to be forgotten contribution toward the rebuilding of a modern army. And these very walls, well, let's go back up and read a little bit more. In addition to the invaluable assistance of the British during the liberation of Ethiopia, at a time when Ethiopia lay vulnerable and exhausted from the struggle of national liberation, the British military mission made a powerful and never to be forgotten contribution towards the rebuilding of a modern army, and in these very walls resumed the instruction and the academic tradition suspended in the hours of bitter conflict. Okay? In the hours of bitter conflict. If today Ethiopia stands to the forefront among the military forces in Africa and the Middle East, there we go, the Middle East again, right? The Promised Land. It is due to this vital military tradition, to the strong sense of discipline inculcated over the years within this training center by devoted officers from abroad, and today to the generous support in arms, equipment, and instructors furnished by the United States of America. See that? So while you being, right? So while we speaking about reparations and how, national, the national bounds to reach reparations, because only a nation, right? Reparations can only be handed over from nation to a nation, right? So to that black Afro American nation, or to that nation which we be, is Israel, is the true Israel, right? That reparations is due to black peoples in America. This is very, very, very important to understand, okay? And not only that, but this support for world shalom and world peace calls us as nations to work together in this very effort. So that very effort that black people have gave their blood and their sweat and their tears in the soils of the American, the soils of the American mud, the dirt, the pavement, the concrete jungle, the working hard, the enslavement, coming from enslavement to, economic disenfranchisement, because that's what happened to us when we came out of segregation, supposedly. Economic disenfranchisement. Well, it was already going on. That was already going on, So this is very important to us, those efforts that we need. So let us read on. That was the second place. So let us go to the third while we still, we still got, I think we're making good time. All right. Let's see where the third one is at here. Okay, so this one was general education. Why education? And make sure it's not in the area we already read from. Okay. So here, why education? From truth alone is born liberty, and only an educated people can consider itself really free and master of its fate. It is only with an educated people that representative and democratic organs of government can exercise their influence for national progress. So, I definitely gotta read that again, even though you can rewind it. I definitely want to read it again because it's very important. From truth alone is born liberty, and only an educated people can consider itself as really free and master of its fate. It is only with an educated people that representative and democratic organs of government can exercise their influence for national progress. So this is speaking of education and being a people educated on what nation we be. That Amos 9 and 7, aren't you as the children of the Ethiopians to me, O Israel, black Israel over here. That nation of Israel, from the roots. This is important. Education. However, here we go. Beginning. However, our programs undertaken in the economic field for augmenting the material welfare of our subjects has not made us forget that, according to the words of the Bible, man does not live by bread alone. So it's not just the material welfare. It's not just and these are the words of His Imperial Majesty Qedamawi Haile Selassie, Rastafari. However, our programs undertaken in the economic field of augmenting the material welfare of our subjects has not made us forget that, according to the words of the Bible, man does not live by bread alone. We believe that the spiritual and moral welfare of our people is as important as their material well-being. Very, very important there. Thus, it is that following the liberation of Ethiopia, pay attention, following the liberation of Ethiopia from the yoke of the enemy. This is important right here, and this actually kind of made us think of the book of Obadiah on the judgment on Edom. You know what I mean? Those are the mixed brothers of Israel who basically persecuted their brother. You know what I mean? Like Esau persecuted Esau. You know, Esau's descendants will persecute Jacob, right? But it made us think of that this kind of brought to mind that to a degree. Thus it is that following the liberation of Ethiopia from the yoke of the enemy, we have devoted a very large part of our budget and national revenues for the establishment and development of schools. During this short period of 10 years, no less than 15 secondary schools, of which the last General Wingate School was opened by ourselves this year, have been established directly as a result of our initiative direction. The number of students enrolled in schools in Ethiopia has nearly tripled during the same period. Shortly, the university, the foundation stone of which we have laid, will be opened under our direction. We face with confidence the future of public instruction in Ethiopia. So, yes. So the achievement there, and this is what we were saying, His Majesty has achieved some of the greatest achievements, and this is another one of the points that we were making here, where it says during this short period of 10 years, no less than 15 secondary schools. So when a lot of ones be talking, you know, when we speak about Marcus Garvey, Messiah Garvey, and we speaking about His Imperial Majesty Qedamawi Haile Selassie, no one that there is, name the black man who's accomplished that. Name him, and show me the schools, where the schools are at. So again, and you see this here, and it's not the challenge anymore, but this is important that we should know of finishing. You know what I mean? That His Majesty actually, he finished these projects, these schools were done, right? He made these things, he brought these things together. So it says, in no less than 10 years, right? In a period of 10 years. In 10 years, no less than 15, right? No less than 15. So 10 years, he put more schools than there were for the years, right? No less than 15 secondary schools, of which the General Wingate School was opened by ourselves this year, have been established directly as a result of our initiative direction. The number of students enrolled in schools in Ethiopia has nearly tripled during the same period. Shortly, the university, the foundation stone of which we have laid, will be opened under our direction. We face with confidence the future of public instruction in Ethiopia. Now moving on to where Middle East is in this area. If we have made so many sacrifices to the education of our youth, it is because we are convinced that only through intellectual progress and universal education can Ethiopia come into its own and make its just contribution to the history of the peoples of the Middle East. So by that education, you know, that intellectual progress of the youths, you know, of these young black youths, you know what I mean? So tell the black youths the truth concerning their history. Okay? Tell the black youths the truth concerning their history. Alright? So let's go over that again. If we have made so many sacrifices for the education of our youth, it is because we are convinced that only through intellectual progress and universal education can Ethiopia come into its own and make its just contribution to the history of the peoples of the Middle East. Okay? So the history of the true promised land of those peoples. And the fact that Kebra Negesh, you know, the fact that King Solomon had gave Gaza to the Queen of Sheba, as it was said on the Rastafari Jews. Shout out the Rastafari Jews on the YouTube, you know, to the Rebbe Wyndham Yano, you know, God bless on that. You know, we give thanks for that one. That was that's very, very important. Yes, that Gaza was given to the Queen of Sheba. See what I'm saying? So this rich history, this black history that was in these places, these roots, you know, don't neglect these things if we want a rich and a beautiful and a peaceful world. Let us educate all of our children. You see what I'm saying? So it says, we believe that from truth alone, listen, the truth, right? We believe that from truth alone is born liberty, and that only an educated people can consider itself as really free and master of its fate. It is only with an educated people that representative and democratic organs, here we are, of government can exercise their influence for national progress. So you can represent what Ethiopia truly is, and I, black people, as Ethiopia, as that nation, you know, the Ethiopian World Federation, you know, that Ethiopian World Federation. Our address from the throne, therefore, testifies to the importance which we attach to education, and at the same time to your role as representatives in the development and progress of our people. November 3rd, 1951. So this is interesting. This is interesting because Coronation Day was 1931. So, you know, on this 20-year, 2-decade anniversary of His Imperial Majesty's coronation, which was in November 2nd, 1930. So 21 years. You know, 21 years. That's a 7 on that, right? 1930, November 2nd, 1930. Yes, sir. So this was dated November 3rd, 1951. Cool, cool. So let us go on to the furthermore. Now let's go to the 4th. All right. So this 4th one here. Actually, we're going to pause for the cause, and we're going to continue on the 4th one. Shalom.